and monitors displayed as a lab as read, according to records of the February 2009 incident recently obtained by USA Today under a FOIA request. The CDC took 3.5 years to fulfill the request. Why? Because they don't want you to know what a cock this whole thing is. They bring these things in, deadly diseases that don't even exist in our country. They're bringing them in as weapons. They're creating these weapons, and they can't and won't control these things. You need to be very concerned about this. What do we do to stop this? How do we get control of this? This is the CDC's own lab. And, of course, the same reporter reported on what happened in the Primate Center about 1.5 years ago. The National Primate Center, where they brought in a disease that's not endemic to the United States, a very deadly disease. They brought it in to make it more deadly, more easy to catch, and somehow it got out of a bio-level safety lab level number 3. It got into the primates who were not even contained in a contained area. What you have to be concerned about is it getting into the soil and water. And then as they investigated it, they found workers who came down with it, but they said, don't worry, I'm sure those workers already had it before they started the investigation. That's the way they lied to us. You have to understand how dangerous this is. They are playing not only with fire, they're playing with a pandemic. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we were just talking in the last segment about the latest revelation, because we've had revelations before about breakdowns in biosafety labs. Of course, we've had the government shipping live anthrax virus through the regular mail. We've had the National Primate Center. We've had deadly bacteria get out and escape into the wild there. They still don't know how that happened. And I just read you this report. They said and it does play like the screenplay of a disaster movie, because this is a disaster waiting to happen. And this is just the incompetence level here. This isn't even talking about the sinister stuff that they do, like the Tuskegee experiments that we all know about. But the very fact that they're doing this is sinister. The very fact that we have, with Operation Paperclip, that we brought in these Nazi and Japanese scientists who had been doing horrific human experimentation and brought them in for our own weapons program to give these deadly non-native diseases a gain of function, to make them more deadly, to make them more easily transmittable. So that's one of the things that's facing us, and of course the breakouts of this. How do we contain government? It's a perfect metaphor for government, isn't it? Especially the government, the national security state, the Pentagon. How they create these weapons that are hanging over our heads like the sword of Damocles. And yet there's other problems as well. At the same time they're doing this and telling us that they have to have a national security state to watch everything that everybody does, we see that the federal government lost all of its personnel records to hackers. And now this, coming out of, interestingly enough, Australia. Had a guy send this to me on Twitter because, you know, our press doesn't cover this kind of news, but Australia did. The U.S. Federal Reserve was breached more than 50 times recently. The U.S. Federal Reserve detected more than 50 breaches to its network and systems between 2011 and 2015, with several incidents described internally as espionage. They say the Fed's computer systems play a critical role in global banking, of course. They hold confidential information on discussions about monetary policy that drives financial markets. Of course, we're having that kind of discussion today as Janet Yellen is dropping hints about whether she's going to raise interest rates or not, doing it at the same time people are talking about Brexit. And we've got the Prime Minister of the UK trying to scare people about financial Armageddon if they leave the EU. And we're going to cover that in the next segment here. But with this, they say the cybersecurity reports obtained by Reuters, again, through a FOIA act, were heavily redacted by the Fed officials. They say the records represent only a slice of all cyber attacks on the Fed because they include only cases involving the Washington-based Board of Governors. They did not have access to reports of cybersecurity teams at the central bank's 12 privately owned regional branches. Disclosure of breaches at the Fed comes at a time when cybersecurity at central banks worldwide is under scrutiny and under attack, after hackers stole $81 million from a Bank Bangladesh account at the New York Fed. At the New York Fed. They went into the this is bigger than Bonnie and Clyde. This is bigger than Jesse James. This is bigger than the Italian Job, you know, where they had those little minis and they went in and robbed the bank and they had little cars so they could get through the traffic jams. No, they didn't do any of that physical stuff. because of the digital cash, hackers can go in and steal $81 million, and they can do it at the New York Fed. Just hack into their account and take it right out of there. They say cyber thieves have targeted large financial institutions around the world, including America's largest bank, JP Morgan, as well as smaller players like Ecuador's Banco del Austro and Vietnam's Tien Phong Bank. They also go on to say security analysts said foreign governments could stand to gain from internal Fed information. You think? You think they could use that? You think China and Russia, as they say, for instance, major players in the $13.8 trillion federal debt market, where Fed policy plays a big role on setting interest rates. So if you are a criminal individual, or if you are a foreign government that wants to mess with our money supply, then you go to the people who are counterfeiting it, the Federal Reserve, and they're talking about whether they're going to pump or dump, whether they're going to do quantitative easing, are they going to raise or lower interest rates. Having that advanced knowledge can get you a lot of money, and it makes them a big target, and they're not doing a very good job of protecting it. But of course, if you're a congressman or a congresswoman, then you can act on inside information that you have when you're going to pass bills to help a particular company or to shut down a particular industry. You can sell it short. If you're going to shut down the coal industry, you can make a lot of money selling short coal stocks or oil stocks. Or if you're going to give a massive subsidy to a solar power company, it might be kind of convenient to have that information. And remember, that came out at one point in time, and everybody was appalled that Congress just looked the other way and said, no, that's okay. We can do insider trading. We'll lock up Martha Stewart for it, but we will do it ourselves. So they passed a little bill. They left it in there for about 6 months, and when nobody was looking, they eviscerated that bill. They got rid of it. They're still doing insider trading. So why wouldn't cyber criminals do insider trading at the Federal Reserve? Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host on this 6/6/16. As we pointed out, we've had a couple of reports we did at the top of the hour with Alex Jones about the significance of what is happening in the world, what is being pushed in terms of biochips, in terms of internet IDs, the ceremonies that we're seeing being done by the Satanists throughout the country on this day and at the beginning of June. We're going to have more on that tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News. Tonight we're also going to talk about the billionaire's ultimate bug-out bag. And that would be a rocket ship, folks. You know, you talk about these billionaires building these elaborate places with panic rooms. George Clooney's got one in the UK. Other people setting up these elaborate and expensive compounds to protect themselves from some kind of a societal breakdown. Look, the ultimate bug-out bag is a rocket to get off of the place once their disruptive technologies get so disruptive that they start destroying the earth. And we've had multiple science fiction scenarios, but of course we've had scientists that we've interviewed. I've interviewed Hugo de Garis, who wrote The Ardalect War. And he talked about as the general public becomes aware of the danger of some of these technologies that are so dangerous. And we're not talking now about things like the gain-of-function bioweapon programs. That's one of them as well, but also the autonomous killing robots that are being done by the Pentagon. Even just artificial intelligence. Hugo de Garis is an artificial intelligence scientist. He talked about his concern that what he was creating and his fellow scientists were creating was going to get out of control and that it would squash us. The same sorts of things that Elon Musk has openly talked about. And of course, that's his bug-out bag, trying to get to Mars, setting up his space program. Tonight, we're going to talk about all these different billionaires and their different programs. And I think the key guy that we need to look at is Jeff Bezos of Amazon.com. We're going to tell you what he's got going. I think he's the guy that's got the most interesting approach to all of this. And certainly I think he has the most advanced technology behind all this. We're going to talk about the other aspect of space exploration, and that is kind of a super Agenda 21, if you will. And of course, Agenda 21, the UN agenda for the 21st century, which says, let's lock all the people up in little tiny concentrated cities and let's keep the rest of the world for the elites. Okay, that's now been changed and updated into something that's a little bit more specific. Not just the 21st century. No, they've got the 2030 UN agenda. The 2030 UN agenda for sustainable development. So we're going to talk about that and how I believe this space exploration plays into all that. That's also going to be on tonight's Nightly News. Before we get back to the news, I just want to remind you that today is the last day for 2 specials. If you want to breathe easy, we've got a couple of things here for you. Lung Cleanse, 20% off at InfoWarsLife.com. Today is the final day of that sale. And, of course, Lung Cleanse is an easy-to-use spray bottle. It tastes great. It really works. It helps to get to cleanse your lungs. I use that to get my lungs cleansed when I get on the air. That and Brain Force are 2 of my favorite supplements that we have at InfoWarsLife.com. And, of course, we got 20% off of Lung Cleanse ending today. Also, the final day for our introduction of Alexa Pure Breeze. Now, this is an energy-efficient ion cluster air purification system. We've just started doing this, so this is our introductory special, 25% off. It's $184.99. That's a great price. If you shop and compare the features of this piece of equipment, I think you'll agree this is an incredible price. Again, this is something that it recycles 120 cubic feet every 12 minutes. It does an air change. It's very silent, and its byproduct is simply clean water. So take a look at InfoWarsStore.com. Check out Alexa Pure Breeze and look at the statistics on that. We have a comparison with other similar products. You can see what a savings that is on that. And again, today is the final day of that 25% off that introductory sale and the final day of 20% off of Lung Cleanse at InfoWarsLife.com. Let me see, where do I want to go? I think I want to talk about the misinformation that we're seeing. As I was driving in today, I heard yet again the narrative that Donald Trump has jumped the shark. How many times have we heard this? Because he criticized this judge who's doing very unjudicial things, by the way, in terms of releasing these transcripts as the trial is going on. Isn't that interesting that he would do that? But of course, there's no criticism for that. It's criticism for Donald Trump pointing out that this guy is biased and pointing out the reason for his bias. And he talks about his Mexican heritage. Now, Donald Trump was not saying that he can't get a fair trial from any Mexican, I don't think. But certainly this judge is somebody who bears looking at. Not simply because he has a Mexican heritage, but because his Mexican heritage is so important to him that he's a key member of La Raza. Now, if you don't understand what La Raza is, let me read to you. And I read this yesterday on the Sunday show, but I want to read this again because it bears repeating. This is Cesar Chavez, the union organizer for the United Farm Workers, okay, helping migrant workers. And he was very, very critical of La Raza, the race. Cesar Chavez said it was racist. The organization was racist. Here's specifically what he had to say, and you can see this on Wikipedia. You can see the quotes there. He says, "I hear more and more Mexicans talking about La Raza," says Cesar Chavez, "to build up their pride. Some people don't look at it as racism, but when you say La Raza, you are saying an anti-gringo thing, and it won't stop there. Today it's anti-group. Tomorrow it will be anti-gringo. Tomorrow it will be anti-Negro. We had a stupid guy who just wanted to play politics within the union, and he began to whip up La Raza against the white volunteers, and even had some of the farm workers and the pickets and the organizers hung up on La Raza, so I took him on. He said these things have to be met on. On discrimination, I don't even give the members the privilege of a vote, and I'm not ashamed to say it. No, the whole business of discrimination can't exist here. So often these days, leaders are afraid. They even feel strongly about racism, but they won't speak out against it. It's important that we call it what it is. That's why we had the videos up saying that this judge is a key member of Hispanic, they called him Hispanic Grand Dragon. You need to understand that's the case. Now let me read you something else here. You have a friend of his, Richard Garcia, who quoted Chavez, who said, La Raza, why be racist? Because La Raza literally means the race. He says, our belief is to help everyone, not just one race. Humanity is our belief, he said. And another friend, Stan Steiner, observed that when Chavez told Chicanos this, he said, their faces fell in disbelief. They thought that he was a nationalist, not a humanist. That is what this is about, folks. This is a clash of nationalism. See, at the top level, what the Wall Street people are doing is a clash of globalism versus nationalism. But at the level that we're seeing with these dreamer riots that are happening at the Trump rallies, where these people are waving Mexican flags and burning American flags, that is nationalism versus nationalism. That is what is behind all of this.